Peace. Barghani, Islam, Salam, Hatep, Rahubat, Lago Ninani, Chief Noble Bandele, back again for another video. And today's video, we will be dealing with the 15th Amendment, and we'll be dealing with the presidential electoral process, since that seems to be the talk of the day. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, here is all my information. Name, you can reach me at 513-486-6115. Cash at me at Bandele227. Or you can email me at bandele227@gmail.com. And while we are at it, please check my books out. I have several books that I have written dealing with Moors, religion, law, pretty much, all that. How to live indigenous as we should. But you can find all my books on Amazon.com. Now, let's get to the nitty gritty. Today, we think we're going to be talking about the 15th Amendment, which deals with the voting process. It deals with voting, period. So we want to talk about that. We're going to talk about the electoral vote, how that works, and the constitutional laws behind it. So right now, let's check out right here. Look at the 15th Amendment, ratified in 1789, but revised in 1992. So let's check this out. It says, Section 1, the rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So this was written, really for the melanated people, what they call so-called African Americans today, but it's really written for people who were, denied the rights as a slave. And this is coming after the 14th Amendment, which created the citizenship. Now you got to cover and protect their rights to vote. Okay, so this is an important constitution. Now you see that the right to vote comes out of the 15th Amendment. Let's look at the Electoral College, because a lot of people is like, we talk about voting all the time, and a lot of people who think we should vote. A lot of people think we should not vote. It's kind of like when it comes to voting for president, a lot of times, like, we don't realize that it's the electoral vote. And I feel like sometimes the system has us focus so much on who's president and has us focus on voting for president, where we don't look at where we really could vote and where the power of voting really lies in, like, your congressional, the House, and your local, state and local people. That's who you're really voting for. You're not really voting for the president of the United States. Okay, so let's look at it, because it's the Electoral College. It says the Electoral College is a unique method for indirectly electing the president of the United States, which it was established in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution, and modified by the 12th and 23rd Amendments, which will, if we get time, we'll look at those. It says the Electoral College consists of a total of 538 members, one for each U.S. senator and representative, and 3 additional electors representing the District of Columbia. Each state has a number of electoral votes equal to the combined total of its congressional delegation. And each state legislator is free to determine the method it will use to select its electors. So we really need to be looking at who the state elects as your elector to vote for the president. Okay, that's part of it, okay? It says currently all states select electors through a popular vote. although how the vote works can differ. But that was not always the case throughout American history. In many cases, the state legislature select electors, a practice which is common until the mid 1800s. So they use that word popular vote. So by popular vote, you get to elect your electors. But the popular vote doesn't actually elect the president. So let's look. The following is a summary. So, you got the nomination of electors. The political parties in each state nominate their electors. So that's what they did this year. They elected the electors. Election day, when the voters in each state will select their presidential electors, it says the names of electors are not on the ballot in most states. Rather, when a voter casts a vote for a presidential candidate, he or she is also casting a vote for the electors already selected by the party of that candidate. In a majority of voters in a state vote for a Republican candidate for president, the Republican slate of electors is elected. If a majority vote for the Democratic candidate, the Democratic slate of electors is chosen. Okay, interesting. So we're looking at right now, we've just passed the November 3rd, and we got the December 8th is where they probably said it's the deadline for the resolving election disputes. So, the way things are looking now with Trump and Biden, it may go, to the deadline, December 8th. Okay. So now that we looked at that and we kind of got an idea of how the process is done, let's kind of look at the some of the articles in the Constitution. So right here, let's go. This one right here, we're looking at the executive branch, Article 2. Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a president for the United States of America. Okay, now, it says right here, it's talking about what we talked about. It says the electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. Okay. The President of the Senate shall, in presence of the Senate and the House, open the certificates and the votes shall be counted. Person having the greatest number of votes shall be president. If such number be the majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there are more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose, which is spelled interesting, by ballot one of them for president. So there's a process, and if no person has a majority, then from the five highest on the list, the said house shall be in like manner choose the president. But choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representative from each state having one vote. Okay. So it kind of goes into it. It does talk about the elector. So we understand now who the electors are. The electors are basically either the Democrat electors or the Republican electors. They're the ones that's doing the process for the voting. So when we look at that one, then we go to the 12th Amendment. This is the 12th Amendment, election of president and vice president. It was ratified, passed in 1803. So this is you know, fairly old, in the United States Constitution. It says again, the electors shall meet in their respective states. You see, it kind of repeats and goes into it, but there is a part. It talks about, it says the majority of states shall be necessary to choose. It says, and if the House of Representatives shall not choose the president, whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them before the 4th day of March next day, then the vice president shall act as president as in case of death or other constitutional disabilities of the president. Now, this was changed. The dates have changed until because the president used to be elected back in earlier in the year now than it is now. So I think that's what the 12th Amendment has something to do with. It does talk about, like I said, the electors in the process of electing using the electors. Now, the last one is this one right here is dealing with the 23rd Amendment. So you got the 23rd Amendment, presidential vote for D.C. It basically says the district is constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such a manner as Congress may direct a number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than at least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of the president or vice president to be electors appointed by the state, and shall meet in a district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of the amendment. Okay, so it definitely, they coincide. The 12th, it goes back to the 12th article. But again, once again, it just gives you the definition of what the electors how they're put together. So when we were reading, discussing the beginning, when it discussed how these electoral people are put together, this right here is basically giving you that information of how it is and how many people, the number versus how many of your representatives of that state and whatnot. So, so it's important, it's just, a lot, like we said, we talk about the electoral process quite often. And, a lot of people who argue against voting, they would say that, we don't vote for the president. It's electoral votes, and they are right, but the rest of the people that we vote for, which is Congress or your mayors or your governors or senators or whatnot, these people are directly impacted by the popular vote. Okay. So it's important to remember that. But it is true that your vote does not directly impact the president. Vote directly, it has an indirect impact because it directly impacts the electoral voters. But ultimately, the electoral voters are the ones that will decide the president. And as you can see on TV now, you're looking at how many electoral votes Biden needs to win versus Trump. So you definitely see that in this. You definitely see the difference in that. So, be careful. What we need to do is look and pay attention more to the voting of the other people and stop putting so much emphasis on our vote for president of the United States. Okay. With that being said, that's pretty much it. Please give a thumbs up and like and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you on the flip side. Peace. Two times.